Good evening. This is Maestro Critello with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 1v1 on Quest Heresy. Our first player right here is For7une, playing as this very interestingly colored Warp Spider Exarch. The Warp Spider Exarch is a teleporting and harassment hero. Not all that powerful to start out, but he can be very tricky, very evasive, can bleed a lot of models, and has some interesting late game tricks as well. For7une's opponent is Stego. I cast him in another game. He's playing as the Hive Tyrant here. The Hive Tyrant is a tanky melee hero. He is very, very tanky. He's actually, at least to start out, he's the tankiest. He can become even tankier with a warp field or with the bonded exoskeleton that can make him invulnerable. He can also be extremely powerful with crushing claws. Great hero overall, I think. Although I don't play him that much, since I don't play Tyranids at all. So, we have For7une again right here. Last time I cast For7une, I think the game didn't go over that well. But I still talked. For7une is kind of an evil genius of Dawn of War 2. I actually haven't talked to him in a little while. Maybe he's estranged me after I gave him an interesting little profile in the game that I cast him in. But he's still certainly a very solid player, a very creative one. Hopefully this game turns out pretty nicely. He is playing Eldar here. So from both players, in addition to their heroes, we see somewhat similar builds in the sense that both players have gotten two basic ranged units, two starting ranged units, as well as a single melee unit. Now, of course, for Eldar, the ranged unit comes free, and then he bought another ranged unit and that starting melee unit. While for Stego, the Tyranids, that Hormagaunt brood, the melee unit, comes free, while the ranged units need to be purchased. So just a little interesting starting out facts that the free unit for Tyranids is a melee unit, while the free unit for Eldar are a ranged unit. And by comparison, I'd certainly say the Banshees are the more fearsome Tier 1 range unit compared to the Hormagaunts, but these Hormagaunts can certainly do a lot of damage. I believe about 20 DPS per model on a squad with 8 models, so that damage is certainly no joke. Now right there, we saw that Warp Spider Exarch was basically just sitting in cover, and he just bled 4 models off of the Hormagaunt brood. And that's a big part of what the Warp Spider Exarch does. He's a hero, so he's a hero, a single entity, so he does not bleed unless he dies entirely. So what Warp Spider Exarch players will do? Ooh, a very nice grenade there, used as a melee counter, takes out 5 Hormagaunt models. So a lot of bleed right there for Stego. So what Warp Spider Exarch players will do, they'll just have him sit in cover, let him fight a... That might actually be a dead... No, dead horn. They'll let the Warp Spider Exarch just tank the range fire while sitting behind cover. And against most starting ranged units, he will just bleed them while taking no bleed himself. And that's one of the things that's tricky about the Warp Spider Exarch, because it's hard to just ignore a unit entirely, especially one that's a ranged unit that is just going to do range damage. So generally you have to engage it with something, and if you even try to engage it with a melee unit, then he just teleports out of the way. So the Warp Spider Exarch can actually be pretty difficult to kill in Tier 1. Many other heroes will have a lot of trouble threatening him. Actually, melee heroes actually have probably the most trouble, since they'll often just teleport away from him. And a hero like the Apothecary is someone who will basically not threaten the Warp Spider Exarch much at all unless he gets the Mastercrafted Bolter. Basically, unless he changes from a melee hero to a ranged hero. So definitely a ranged heavy build coming out from For7une, but he's going to lose one of his ranged units if he's not careful. Tries to use a grenade defensively as a melee counter, but there he could not pull it off. Not with too many Dire Avenger models getting knocked down by these warrior broods. So instead he chooses to fleet out of there, does retreat them, and he does at least save that squad. That engagement could have gone a lot worse for For7une. So Banshee's prowling around. They have the aspect of fleetness, but right now they're actually only at about 75% health. Certainly with Eldar units, and at least with the Howling Banshees, I would think you wouldn't want to put them out on the field only at partial health. Certainly, I mean, sometimes with some races you have to, but if anything, I think would want to put a ranged unit out on the field with partial health, and also make it more so for races like Space Marines and Chaos, with units like Chaos Space Marines and Tactical Marines. You can a little bit more feasibly, I think, put them out on the field at partial health. Those Banshees, as it is, they did not do too well. Now, one of the really interesting things I've been seeing For7une do is when he's getting in some bad situations. Unfortunately, he's not really doing a good job with the way he's putting himself in bad situations, but he's having good reactions and instincts about how to handle those bad situations once he's already in them. Twice what we saw him do was, instead of just hitting X in a panic when his units get in trouble, he's actually using the Eldar ability, Fleet of Foot, fleeting them out of there so that they're basically out of range of the melee units. We saw him do that with the Dire Avengers, and then with the Howling Banshees, he also fleeted out of range of the enemy units, and he also drew them into the Shuriken Cannon firing arc. So I like that play. Definitely some smart play, despite also some miscues from For7une. So he'll make a few bad decisions, but then he'll kind of make up for it with some better decisions. Howling Banshees right here they use their ability right there, War Shout, but it actually does not suppress those Hormagaunts. I'm not sure why. So For7une definitely having trouble keeping his presence on the field at the moment. But he is getting to tier 2 quicker. No upgrades on that War Spider Exarch, so he's really just using him for capping as well as harassment. Oh, that could be really bad for the weapon team. Luckily, the Guardian model is up front. So I think the actual weapon, the platform, from what I've been told, does not actually have any health of its own. So if that last Guardian died, that could have been the end of the squad, but luckily the Guardian model was facing forward, or was up forward. Now this War Spider Exarch is here. Even out of cover, he will bleed those Termagant models a lot, but I think he might want to move into cover. The improved targeters could... let's check out. Let's see. Can this Warrior Brood lose the last of its 200-something health? No, but still, 2 Warrior Brood models die, and Howling Banshees staying in against these Hormagaunts, even with only at partial health, they're still winning quite massively thanks to the special attacks that they keep getting off. That could actually be a wipe on the Hormagaunts. And yes, so Stego loses his Hormagaunts, making the mistake of putting his Hormagaunts into battle against the Howling Banshees. Now, one of the things that makes those Howling Banshees so great to start out is that they really do seem to win against other Tier 1 melee units. And I think there's certainly a good reason for that, at least in terms of their cost. They are more expensive to get than most of the other Tier 1 melee units. So they should be a little better. And usually they'll win against other Tier 1 melee units because of their melee skill. They'll often get knockbacks. Many of the other melee units actually do more damage than the Banshees to start out. Even those Hormagaunts actually have a higher starting... They actually have a higher DPS to start out than the Banshees. Hormagaunts have higher DPS than Banshees. Sluggers also have higher DPS than Banshees. Heretics with their Aspiring Champion will definitely have higher DPS than I'm pretty sure will have higher DPS than the Howling Banshees, though I think without the Aspiring Champion they won't. But, I mean, the Howling Banshees seem to win anyway, since they have that higher melee skill. They will knock over units, although I don't think they tend to knock over... I don't think they get knocked back on Heretics, really. But they'll also usually win because if the other person retreats first, the Howling Banshees are way better retreat killers than all of those other Tier 1 melee units. Well, I'm not so sure. I don't know if they're better than the Hormagaunts. They probably are. Something about them is just so good about killing on retreat. So Stego lost his Hormagaunts, also lost his Hive Tyrant right here from the Howling Banshees as well. But now we do see some Genestealers. Now these things can match the Howling Banshees, if not beat them. Since they will be doing, it's something like 34 power melee DPS per model. They have much more health with that melee synapse they're now getting from the Warrior Brood. So the Warrior Broods by themselves are not really that, they're not really that tough as a melee unit. I mean, certainly they've got a pretty nice HP pool. 3 models. 3 models for 1800 health is quite a bit of health per model. But their actual damage is not that impressive. Although the disruption from their leap is definitely one of the major advantages of the Warrior Brood. But they're, again, these Warrior Broods by themselves are really not that powerful. It's more about the synergy that they have both with Hormagaunts and with Genestealers that makes the Warrior Brood a very good unit. Brood Nest now down. Force Stego will allow him to reinforce on the field, as well as giving him a healing aura. Now the Genestealers have not upgraded to their Rending Claws. They will only be doing, well, they'll be doing power melee damage right now. Another grenade, so some very good defensive grenades, and Stego has not really caught on to it yet. Wow, so a few Genestealer models dying right there, 2 of them, and the squad actually down to 300 health. But we'll start reinforcing right here, as well as the actual members that are still alive will start getting their health back. Wraithlord out on the field for For7une. Stego not quite yet ready. He's got a few counters. He does have the Hive Tyrant now with the Crushing Claw. We'll be doing 108 DPS heavy melee. Genestealers, if they decide to get their Rending Claws, I believe, they will be doing heavy melee damage, but they really need to watch out from the heavy melee splash damage coming out of this Wraithlord. Will definitely bleed these Genestealers, even with them trying to get heals. Now, I'm really surprised to see For7une again with, he's got a Bright Lance for seemingly no reason. He is quite losing. He's now losing massively on the VPs, 433 to 167, and a triple cap against him. So there are things about For7une's play that is sometimes confusing me. It would confuse me last time, and again, this Bright Lance really, even more. I was really confused last time when he got a Plague Marine squad against Tyranids. And you know, at least the last time, some of the people who watched the video made a few comments, explained how the Plague Marines could still be useful, even though not only did the Tyranid player not have a vehicle at the time, but Tyranids don't even have anything with vehicle armor in Tier 2. Now here we see For7une getting a Bright Lance, and this is something that really does not have any use outside of vehicles. Its only other use outside of dealing with vehicles is capping and bashing generators. Can act as a melee counter, so it's really curious to see. I have no idea why For7une got a Bright Lance. He won't have to. I mean, I guess Stego is now in Tier 3. I don't know if For7une necessarily knows that. But it's still just an extremely curious choice, considering he could have kept suppression, and that suppression would have helped him control these Howling Banshees. Maybe he can comment on the video and tell me what he was doing here. Maybe it was actually an accident. It's actually not that. It's actually not impossible for an upgrade to be an accident. There have been times when I accidentally upgraded some of my units, especially since I recently switched to grid keys, specifically for repair units. The repair button, H, is usually right next to an upgrade, which is usually J. Like on Guardsmen, H is repair, J is flamers, so there have been times when I accidentally bought flamers on my Guardsmen. For Heretics, H is repair, and then J is upgrade to grenade launchers. So I've had a few accidental grenade launcher purchases. Autarch on the field as well for For7une. And again, another grenade, and that's going to be a wipe on the Termagants. Grenade and then force melee by For7une. Doom of Malan'tai now out for Stego. In this engagement, unfortunately, For7une's going to lose. I think he's going to lose his Wraithlord, and he does in fact. Wow, a million things just died there. well, maybe not a million things, but definitely maybe some Warrior Brood models, maybe some Genestealer models as well. Autarch is currently unupgraded. I feel like you don't see that a lot, since by default the Autarch's default weapon is not that powerful. It's something like 34 DPS power melee. With an upgraded weapon, the Executioner, you get something like 64 DPS power melee, which is quite a bit better. So, just a little while ago, Stego had a triple cap. Now it's For7une with overwhelming map control, but he needs to get his Worst Fighter Exarch away from that Hive Tyrant. The Worst Fighter Exarch cannot take on the Hive Tyrant in single combat. The Autarch really can't do it either. But I think we should see the Executioner from the Autarch, if not the Energy Shield as well. This Worst Fighter Exarch, though, is fully kitted out. Power Blades, gonna make him pretty good in melee now, since he'll be doing pretty significant power melee damage. He does have the Enhanced Warp Generator, allowing him to teleport farther and more often, and giving him more energy. And then Improved Targeters, giving him more range, as well as allowing him to do more range damage. Now, I especially think the Power Blades on the Worst Fighter Exarch will be very good for threatening. Both the combination of the Power Blades and the Enhanced Warp Generator will be extremely good for threatening that Doom of Malan'tai. These Banshees, as it is, are already very good for threatening the Doom of Malan'tai. Wow, that could be a dead Doom of Malan'tai. Alright, I think it just barely will get out of there, but that was really scary. And For7une's still going for it. These Hive nodes, though, going to start knocking over Banshees. So that Doom of Malan'tai came very, very close. But again, I think the Doom of Malan'tai is actually maybe not that great of a choice right now. Maybe, I don't know, Stego may have just wanted to try it, since it's a new unit. People have been liking it. Now the Autarch dangerously low on health. This Brightlands team might die here. Again, I mean, those Genestealers, they are basically as scary as Banshees, if not scarier. So again, that Doom of Malan'tai, I'm actually thinking it's not that great of a purchase right now, with the Autarch around here, just being very fast, being able to potentially jump and get in on that Doom of Malan'tai very quickly and easily. The Worst Fighter Exarch here, upgraded with the Power Blades, has the Enhanced Warp Generator, so he can teleport in on that Doom of Malan'tai from very long range. Banshees, if they get in melee with the Doom of Malan'tai, again, we saw it, just how devastating that can be. So I think For7une is currently, with his build, just a lot better equipped to deal with the Doom of Malan'tai than, say, a Carnifex or a Swarmlord. So I think those would have been better purchases for Stego. As it is, he's getting a Lictor, which, I mean, certainly, Lictor's very good. And those actually will definitely have an advantage in melee against the Worst Fighter Exarch. The Autarch, certainly without upgrades, is also definitely going to be losing to a Lictor. And now, ooh, that's not good. Oh, Howling Banshee's very low on health, but they do get out of there just with their Exarch, but that's a lot of bleed for For7une. And that's a dead Doom of Malan'tai. So yeah, Doom of Malan'tai died there pretty much exactly for the reasons that I was explaining. And now Warrior Brood's in trouble. Especially if that... Oh no, that's going to be a dead Autarch though. No, it's not going to be a dead Autarch. So For7une actually saves the jump. And actually, instead of just retreating, again, good reactions by For7une, keeping his units alive despite being in bad situations, and not just retreating. Being able to get his units alive, get his units out alive in situations where retreating would actually screw him. And I guess that's also apparently one of the strengths of Eldar units. With Fleet, with the teleport from the Worst Fighter Exarch, with the jump from the Autarch, you can get them out of situations where they would otherwise be in a lot of trouble and might even die. And obviously, many other races don't quite have those options. Genestealers coming in right there. That pipe is not going to save these Dire Avengers. They are in a little bit of trouble right now. This Autarch is trying to get the cap off, but she's going to risk dying entirely If those Genestealers do get in on her, that's going to be a dead Autarch unless she has another jump ready. Jump, jump, jump. I don't think she has a jump ready. Actually just uses her speed, runs out of there. But, oh, the flesh hook from the Lictor takes her out. Very, very sad. Now this Fire Prism is right here. It appears to be using the Focused Blast instead of the Dispersed Blast. So now a double cap for For7une. And that Lictor does use Deadly Jump on the Guardian Weapon team. A level 3 Guardian Weapon team, still for no reason. It is now going to be able to counter this Carnifex. But why does he have it? I have no idea why he has a Guardian Weapon team. I mean, I guess maybe the reason Stego ended up trying to go for the Doom of Malan'tai as well as the Lictor, maybe is actually that For7une had that Guardian Weapon team. So he chose not to go for something with vehicle armor because For7une has a vehicle counter. And if he did do it for that reason, he just didn't correctly assess that For7une actually had better counters to the Doom of Malan'tai than a Carnifex. Alright, 1-to-1 cap. Stego has the victory point lead, now does have a Carnifex out. For7une, maybe at this point, I'm guessing maybe he's saving for an Avatar. See, I mean, even right here, if this were a Shuriken, it could be suppressing the warriors, suppressing the Lictor. For7une's still winning the engagements anyway, but I'm still just not getting his choice to get that Bright Lance. He also, I think he should actually turn around here, try to get as many Warrior Brood models as he can. Just gets one. We now have only a Venom Cannon Carnifex instead of a Thornback. I usually feel like if Tyranid players get only one Carnifex, they're usually going to get a Thornback. But I guess he wanted to have a ranged AV against the Fire Prism. That Fire Prism needs to move or it will die. It's getting repaired, but that really isn't enough. And we do have a Bright Lance actually doing damage to that Carnifex and threatening it. Now For7une now has an Avatar. For7une is also in Tier 3 with a massive amount of red, 758. He could throw down an Eldritch Storm at any time. And then shortly after, he wouldn't even have to wait that much longer to get more red to do another one. He mostly has to worry about the VPs though, and staying in the game on VPs. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be the end of that Fire Prism. Seems to be using the Focused Blast and hitting Warrior Broods that are far away instead of going for this Genestealer Brood right in front of it with the Dispersed Blast. Genestealer's now at level 4. That's scary. Level 3 Warrior Brood. Carnifexes shouldn't level. This is going to be a dead... Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, For7une is at the point he does not have a lot of time left to not cap, but that War Spider Exarch is just going to die if he tries to engage the Genestealers. So I think what For7une is doing, he's going for the cap over here, getting a victory point that's completely undefended with his War Spider Exarch that's low on health, meanwhile committing more of his actual army to this one, to his natural, forcing off those Genestealers as well as doing a lot more damage to them. We do have a Brood Nest going up. For7une needs to take it out before those Genestealers start actually reinforcing out of it. Brood Nest goes down. Now we have that Avatar. Misses most of the actual units, but that Avatar is still going to be really good for For7une. It's going to have an advantage over the Carnifex, I think, with its higher health pool, especially considering the Carnifex is not Thornback, and that should be the end of that Lictor. Oh, a sync kill by the Avatar on the Lictor. Just picks it up and throws it on the ground. Doesn't even use his sword. He just throws it. He's going like WWF. I don't even know if you know what that is if you're watching this and you're not from the United States, which is probably a lot of the viewership. But going for a wrestling move, grappling instead of using that sword, grappling instead of fencing. about to be a triple cap for For7une. He's running low on VPs. But For7une's in a very strong position right now. In fact, I mean, it's with some of the games I've been watching lately, it's too hard to call these things, especially with For7une having almost no health left. A squad right here of warrior broods going for this cap. Now we have the Eldritch Storm going to take out that Carnifex. Now that's good, but the problem is that Stego is about to get a double cap. Or he whites out this one. For7une needs to start capping this point immediately while he deals with the Hive Tyrant. Needs to have one of these units ignore the Hive Tyrant and start capping. He knows, fortunately he is smart, he knows what he's doing. Because the only way Stego can win this is if For7une is not paying attention to his caps. He needs to hold, because he basically can't afford to even let a cap go in his hand and go back in favor of Stego. So he needs to bring his forces back here. He needs to hold this VP. He can't just let the Warp Spiders. He's going for a Gen Bash. That's not important right now. Not important when he really just needs the VPs. As it is, his warriors are going to have. I mean, his warriors, his Warp Spiders are going to have to get out of there. He needs to be able to hold this bottom VP and also get this top one. He needs to go for it. He needs to stop some of his units from fighting, especially something like the Bright Lance, which does not serve a purpose. He does not need to bash those generators. That Bright Lance should be on capping duty. That Bright Lance should be over here getting this point while there are no units over there. And I mean, I guess I'm thinking in terms of what For7une needs to do in order to win this game without taking unnecessary risks. And especially For7une it still has a lot more VPs to go compared to Stego. I don't think that's true, actually. Stego says he should have gone for more Genestealers instead of the Carnifex. Well, maybe at that point in the game, but one of the things that I think he should have gone for the Carnifex earlier when For7une did not have adequate counters to it. Part of the thing is that he got the Carnifex a lot later, and For7une had Warp Spiders by then. He was also sitting on enough red to do an Eldritch Storm. This finally looks like it's going to go in favor of For7une, but we still have these really dangerous Genestealers. For7une does not care that he's using Wailing Doom on his own Shuriken Cannon. Now we do have a Wrath of Cain knocking over all of those units, but that will be the game in favor of For7une, I think. Because all of Stego's units are here. They could potentially win this fight, but they're not going to get the VPs back. And another defensive grenade there. So pretty good game. For7une, I mean, I hate to say that For7une was sandbagging, and because I don't want that to take away from Stego's playing. But there are a lot of questionable decisions here that made me wonder if For7une was like fooling around somewhat. Getting that Bright Lance, bashing with the Bright Lance when he needs to be getting this power when he needs to be getting this victory point. Bashing at a point when, I don't know. As well as there was a point when he was down massively in VPs and had a triple cap against him, and he made all of that back up. But whatever. I hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.